Sweet.
Yeah, made it.
All good.
All good?
Yeah, mate.
So you're giving me the brush for a second?
No, I thought you were going to ask me to join. I was just waiting. But
right.
yeah, I thought it was like a request or something. So
You're in here. You're good.
yeah, sweet.
How you been? You been well?
Good. Yeah, man. Good. Yourself?
Yeah, not too bad. Just came in from outside. Had a session this morning. It was freezing. I think it's the coldest it's been all year.
You reckon?
But,
yeah, I was just walking around Redfern then.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's a bit chilly.
It is a bit chilly. So we've known each other for a while now. But funny enough, we first really sat down together when I was living in New York.
New York, yeah, it would have been two years ago, maybe 2 years ago. Yeah.
2018. Yeah. But along that time, you've been a friend and you've been a mentor as well, which has been really insightful, and I've always kind of lent on you for advice along the way, which has been great. So I appreciate that. For those guys who don't know who you are, do you want to give them a brief background about what you've been doing and what you're doing these days? Yeah,
well, I mean, these days, I just finished up footy October, so I'm kind of just doing a lot more. I've got my high-end clients I do in personal training, and then I do a lot of, consultation for athletes, guys trying to make the next level. So, and that's a combination of a lot of rugby codes, even a bit of Gaelic football as well, and then also a lot of like Muay Thai kickboxer clients, a little bit of MMA. So more like consultation with those guys. And then I'm doing some like writing and stuff in the background as well. Yeah.
You've been pretty prominent on rugbycoach.com. I guess that's how a lot of people have come to find out about you as well, because you've got a lot of articles through that source, which has been really informative. And so, West Canterbury Cup was your last port of call when it comes to rugby league. And I thought we kind of focused on that today, more down the rugby league track. So we all know that, you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you can't apply it and if you can't get coaching staff and athletes to buy in, then all that knowledge is pretty much worthless. How do you go about creating that buy-in yourself?
Yeah, with coaches and with athletes, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you want to do is you want to find out, I guess you have to have a discussion with your coach and find out where he wants the program to go, what type of rugby or what kind of style they want to play, what he expects in these athletes. And then you got to kind of come up with a plan. And sometimes, you got to sell that plan to him because, this is what you think is more beneficial to go forward. But then you're also going to have to, have a little bit of an element of what they want as well. So you're getting the best of both worlds. And then with your athletes, I think it's always, first of all, are you likable? That always helps. If athletes actually like you, they're going to listen to you. But you also have to have that, I guess, that level of respect so that, when you say something, they're going to do it. So I think you got to try and get a nice mix of those two things. And then always be transparent. Like when you're doing something, explain to athletes and educate them why you're doing this. And same with the coaches. The reason we're doing this is because this is what we're trying to get for that outcome. Because there's a lot of things that we'd probably do that people think, athletes might think, well, why are we doing this? Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I guess like with my athletes, I always use simple analogies, right? If you're doing foot prep and like foot strengthening drills and things like that, like, why are we doing this? Like, it looks silly kind of thing. And you'd be like, okay, Michael Jordan had the strongest feet in the world. You make something up like that, and look at him. And, why are we doing this neck strengthening? Oh, Mike Tyson did neck strengthening work, You get pretty good buy-in once you give some analogies like that and sell it that way. But I think, main thing is have a level of respect, be likable, speak to everyone, be transparent.
Right. Gotcha. Yeah, you brought up a good point. The what, the how, and the why, I think is a big part of that as well from my own personal experience, because like you said, they might be doing something that feels mundane and feels like, it's not going to transfer across or make any difference in their athletic careers. But once you get that information into their heads, then it definitely creates
and And then when guys actually do it and they feel it or experience it for themselves, then normally it sells itself.
Yeah, nice one. And that usually takes, it's not the first week, it's not the second week, it's a cumulative effect.
Yeah, of course.
Effect over time, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to get that buy-in first day, open doors.
No.
So when it does come to developing the rugby league athlete, what key qualities do you see rise above the others, and how do you go about improving them?
For me, when I look at whenever I look at a sport or an athlete, I always break it down like what are the biomotor qualities needed in a sport, what are the bioenergetics needed, and what are the biodynamics. And then I look at the game demands, and then I look back from there and see where those athletes or that specific team sit in relation to all those different things. And then when I look at rugby league, it's a high intensity contact sport. It's a long season, and you need to be durable to last that season. So I think being durable, being able to absorb force, produce force in a lot of different directions, being able to repeat those things over and over again. But yeah, I basically want to set a platform so that they can play a lot of games, so that they can train with high quality without breaking down. And then I always want my athletes to move efficiently, move in a variety of directions, be great movers, be resilient areas that are prone to injury. I guess that's probably it.
Right. Yeah. So getting them through the season, having them available, because basically, if you're not available and you haven't got your best players on the paddock, then that's going to let the whole thing down, right?
Yeah, and you want them to be explosive and powerful in the movements that are seen on the field, and then be able to repeat those things over and over. And a huge thing I would say would be you want your athletes feeling healthy. You want them feeling good. You always speak to them how they're feeling, not only mentally but physically, because if you feel good, you tend to perform better.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah,
sure. So when it comes to that in-season phase as an S&C, when it comes to maintenance and strength and performance and power, you're basically at a level where you're just trying to keep that rev, that level with strength and power. You're not trying to break any records.
Well, it depends. Like if you have a younger athlete with a lower training age, I've had massive strength improvements and power improvements throughout the season. But then you might have a more experienced person at the back end of their career, and you're just trying to get them back on the park. So it can depend, Essentially in season, all you're doing is filling in the gaps. Like the first half of the week, first few days is just about recovering and feeling better. Then you're going to have a couple of days of where you're going to have some high quality training. And then you're going to have a few days where you kind of prepare and activate and get some readiness for the upcoming game. So you might get some strength work earlier in the week, but then you might just be doing some speed, velocity, the back end of the week. So you're not really causing any too much damage. So you can go into a game feeling good. But yeah, it's just you're trying to find little mini blocks in a training week or the training phase, and where you can hit these residuals and keep them ticking along throughout the season.
Right. So get them recovered from the game, and then get them to a point where you can put work, you can add some development, and get them ready for the game to come. Yeah. Get them feeling good. Yeah.
And that's going to depend on what kind of level you're at. Because you could be training a kids team, and they're going to be ready straight away. So, but whereas if you're training an elite side, it's going to be a lot longer with the recovery process, because they're going to have a lot more higher forces that they're accustomed to in a game. So it's going to take longer to recover. Yeah.
Well noted. So with some of the posts that you've put up on rugbycoach.com in the past, you've touched on tribasic training a fair bit. I know that the principles that you've made work with your own programming. Is there anything else that you've been using recently that kind of is similar, or is maybe different to the triphasic principles that you've been applying?
No, I wouldn't say so. if anything, what I would say I've been doing is probably going back more basic. And for me, training is just essentially stress in the body. And I'm just trying to find regressions and progressions of doing that, depending where my athletes sit. And that's going to depending on the time of the year. So, I mean, a lot of the stuff is very basic. I don't find, for me, triphasic training is not complicated. I mean, I think people get like, oh yeah, all you're looking at is different contractions and you're manipulating them to at certain times of the year. Because, you know, we know that different contractions are going to give different adaptations to the athlete. So for me, it's not really crazy. I always use a vertical integration model, specifically pre-season. So, and I lay out my approach like that. So there's going to be, you know, certain parts of the year where you're more worried about just getting guys moving in a variety of ways, making tissues resilient. And then you're going to add layers of strength depending on where the athlete sits, and then strength. But they're always going to have all these different levels of that, and obviously some power stuff. But there's always going to be a thread of everything. The way you change it probably depends on the time of year and the type of athlete you have. But I don't think I do anything fancy. I just use a variety of different tools from strength training. Make sure your speed progressions are right, your agility progressions are right, your core training progressions, and then basically I'm just going through a series of progressions that so my athletes know at, and essentially it's simple to complex, you know.
Yeah. So that
low intensity, high intensity. Yeah. Sorry.
That triphasic training element is part of your vertical integration, right?
Yeah, essentially. If you're doing
pre-season, but you wouldn't keep that thread during the in-season, right? Like the eccentric, that's too much stress.
Well, I'm still doing some Nordics in season, but you just do it in lower volume. So I'm still probably doing some Nordics, maybe some razor curls here and there. I'm keeping the element of eccentric work on those areas that need to be resilient, like the hamstring complex, but you're just doing it in lower volume. And if you've got a level of, training history of doing that, you don't actually get sore if you're just doing a few sets. You're just doing, you're not trying to necessarily get sore in those areas, but you're just getting that high intensity stress just to keep it strong, but you're doing it in lower volumes. And you're just choosing times of the year where that might fit. You might have a game off the following week so you can get a little more quality work in. You might have 2 days, like you might have a day off so you can hit it that day before, but you have no high speed running. You're just finding gaps where you can fit important.
It in. Yeah, by all means. Right. So just touching on speed development, we've seen a lot of people when it comes to max velocity training using a lot of wickets with their teams and with their athletes. It can be said that max velocity isn't something you do day one, week one, or maybe week two with the preseason. When do you start working in max velocity, and when do you start implementing wickets?
Well, you can kind of work it in from the start, but you're just going to do it in lower volumes. So, I mean, at the start of pre-season, you're probably going to do a lot more technical work, but you can still do things like running mechanics, and you can potentially hit wickets. But I see a lot of people just go straight into wickets with the mini hurdle straight up. And that can be I've seen some videos, and it can be a train wreck. Like you can just put down cones to start with, and you might just, when you first get a bunch of new athletes, a lot of time that your tides are changing. So some guys might even not have the fundamentals of basic positions. So you can do max velocity. Well, it's not true max velocity, but you're just doing build-ups. You might say, today we're building up to 80, 85%. Right. Next week, we're going to build that a little bit more. And we might only touch on 1-2 reps, but we're getting in those positions. I mean, I've also done it the other way, where I just purely work acceleration work at the start and then gone from short to long. But recently, I've kind of mixed it up, had an acceleration day and max velocity day. I did a massive video on IGTV the other day. But essentially, you can start wickets from day one, but just use let's make it simple for you. And then you can start progressing by putting some of the mini hurdles at the back end of it. So you're going through more cones and then into that. And then over time, you can start doing that. And don't make them too long to start with. Let them get used to it, so they're getting that nice front side mechanics. Then you can start playing around with spacings. And then with your max velocity work, don't just go 100% or do races or anything day one, which I see people do. Just use build-ups, mate. It's just like basic progressions. You don't have guys do 3 RMs. Well, actually, some people do test 3 RMs, but you're not doing a 5x5 strength program day one, you know, and so it's just like anything else. Hey,
I just think with those, I guess the area I'm coming from is those constraints that wickets place on the athlete. You know, if you're building up to a max velocity and essentially you're looking at stride length with wickets, and if that spacing early on can really put the athlete in sometimes vulnerable positions, especially if it's early on.
That's usually because whoever's designed the program or has just executed the drill wrong.
Right.
I mean, if you have the spacings right, guys aren't going to fly through them. And you just say, hey, guys, run through these wickets at 80, 85%, 80%, you know? Essentially, I just see wickets as potentiating your max velocity session, or might not even be a max velocity session. You can just run wickets early pre-season and then just come out, hold that shape for another 10, 15 metres coming out of your wickets. And you might say, okay, today we're doing this at 80, 85%. And that might be it. You might not do much more running after that. And then each week you're progressing on that. You might start going to fly sprints. You might, you know, start going into the floating sprints, which I talked about, and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But essentially the spacings that you use is going to dictate the speed that they're going through there. If the spacings are shorter, you can't go too quick because you're going to overstride. Yeah.
Right. And then you'd increase that spacing as the weeks roll on.
Yeah. And you're probably going to have a couple of different levels.
Right.
Like some of my big guys never will progress from, they might not go, they're happy to stay in the cones. I'm not going to push them over. It's individual basis where guys sit in a level experience.
Okay. Yeah. Makes sense. While we're on the topic of speed development and I guess / conditioning, there's two trains of thought when it comes to building aerobic capacity. You're of the train of thought, or school of thought rather, of tempo and using tempos in your programming, but also using MAS. So there are sometimes two schools of thought. Some people are more MAS heavy. Exos, having gone through the Exos program myself, they tend to lean towards MAS. And then I really enjoy the work of Derek Hansen as well. And he kind of leans a lot more on the tempo side of things. How do you make that decision of what you're going to program during your preseason? And do you see any advantages with tempo more so than MAS?
Yeah, I mean, I explained this before. I don't understand why people they just can't. You just use what you think's best at the time. You know, rather one versus the other. I look for the benefits. I will always work out what's the pros and cons of each method, and then when am I going to use it. I mean, when you're looking at tempo, you're going to have probably a little bit higher speeds of running. The neuromuscular output's going to be higher, but the effort tends to be a little bit easier. And I think one of the reasons people put off by tempo is because coaches might look at it and think it's too easy. But the thing is that the speed that you're doing tempos is typically going to be a lot quicker than doing mass. So you're going to become a little bit more robust to that 6 meters a second type thing, that gap between high velocity and what mass doesn't really give you. And then typically the efficiency and the technical work is going to look a lot cleaner. And you can work on like mechanics and try and groove some nice running mechanics into athletes in that fashion. And I like to do that in a multi-directional fashion as well. Then with mass, obviously the intensity is going to be a lot higher on the heart. The effort level is going to be a lot higher. And then, it's a big culture of mass running in team sports. So a lot of people do that because that's what's ingrained into them. It's very easy to set up. You can, you can use certain numbers to individualize it a lot easier. But I use both. But I'll probably start my mass running with all of them most people do. Like I start at probably 85% type thing. Whereas I know I've seen some people start at 100, 110%, which for me, I find I don't understand why people do that. I prefer to start a little bit lower. I do understand why I do it, but I'd rather start lower and then, so I have somewhere to go to. If you're starting high, where do you go from there? So I'd rather start low. We know that different intensity are going to give you different adaptations. So low intensity stuff works, high intensity stuff works. Yeah.
And would you use tempo or mass during an in season as a recovery session? Which would you prefer?
In season?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Oh, not maybe if someone didn't play a game, I'd be using that stuff. But in season, for the recovery, you're probably going to do more off feet stuff to begin with.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're just trying to take away that intensity
on the joint.
And just get some recovery. You just, as I said, you're trying to recover. I mean, you're trying to get some readiness. But yeah, you might do a little bit of top up stuff. But typically, if you're getting your drills right in season and you're working at that intensities within those drills, that could be enough. But you might need a little bit of top up. And as I said before, you fill the gaps. If you've got gaps there, maybe you can do some. But it's just that fine balance.
Right. Yeah. Gotcha.
Sorry, you could use, if you're not hitting the high speed meters that you're after, you're not maintaining them in the week, maybe you might do a set of 5 or whatever you want to do, because usually you have an idea of what metrics you're trying to hit. Does that make sense?
Yeah. If you got target.
If you got a target and those drills that you had that day didn't get close to that, then you're going to try, maybe you might just do a little bit of top up to hit that. Depends.
Right.
Yeah. But ideally, you're trying to hit that with your technical, tactical stuff.
Yeah.
With your coaching.
And what about your non players or your players that don't have much match time?
Yeah. So just that's when you bring that more so in. Yeah. Because you don't want them falling behind. You want them when they're ready to come into a game. You want them prepared.
Yeah. Close to match fitness as possible.
Yeah.
So obviously the rugby league player needs to be strong through that middle trunk section, right? Anything from the rib cage down to, say, the thigh, they need to be really strong. So trunk development exercises, or what the industry would classify as core movements, how do you go about progressing the rugby league athlete through the annual training plan? Starting in pre-season, how do you move them forward and encourage development through the trunk?
You're going to get a lot of your, trunk training through like your core lifts, but I don't think they give you that segmental control. So if coaches are interested, who's got a really good continuum of core training is Lauren Lando online. It's unbelievable.
Oh, yeah.
And he goes from the basics of you're looking at segmental control, basic intrinsic muscles, and then you're working more through stability, and you're looking at all the different movements, and it could be from like dead bug position to bird dog position to side plank position, and you just basically progressing different elements of intensity on top of that. It might become a little bit unstable. Then you're kneeling, half kneeling, adding bands for power left presses and all that type of stuff. Just so that, because what you will find is a lot of athletes don't have, they can't find these positions. They don't know what posterior tilt is, and they don't know how to keep their ribs down. And then they'll perform a lot of their key movements with like these set I think these basic lifts can provide a lot of context for positions. So you're more successful in the weight room. But they also allow you, I think with the core, you want the muscles to be able to switch on, switch off quickly. So, you're starting from very basic stuff to become more powerful at the back end. I saw a lot of Keir's medicine ball movements as well. From extensive to intensive, you might start kneeling, tall kneeling to half kneeling to standing for a variety of factors. So you got stiffness one end, you got velocity on the other. And then on his strength coach network, that Andy Ryland, USA Football, on Instagram. He's got some really cool, tackle tech, just becoming robust to like contact. And he's got like some crawl things, stuff that I think is good before you do a lot of grapple. And I think that has a pretty good place, because a lot of this stuff is a lot more specific to grapple and tackling. And for me, wrestling, grappling and all that stuff is really, really good for your core. That's a lot higher in the specificity end. So I'd probably attack it from 3 different angles. You got your core progressions, you got your medicine ball progressions, and then you'll have your grappling progressions.
Right. Yeah. Okay. That's becoming more specific at the end there with the grappling, because.
Well, no, a lot of the high end clubs are going to probably do grappling from day one these days. But a lot of other coaches out there might not have that in there, so you can probably look that up and then see how you can implement that within your strength training session.
Right.
I think that would help. Yeah.
But when it comes to trunk power, you'd be utilizing more the medicine ball progression.
Yeah, I mean.
Ladder. Yeah.
I mean, for me, trunk power, it's about switching on and off. So you need velocity, but you also need stiffness. So you're still gonna get that with some of your core training as well.
Okay. Right.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, the core is what transmits a lot of power, right? So
yeah,
you need
You need to be able to stabilize first in order to transmit that to your limbs. Yeah. Yeah. Good stuff. Look, I won't keep you much longer. I've got another question for you, which tells continuing education. Who are you looking at these days, or what books are you reading? Who do you find out that's really helping you develop further?
So online, I'm a member of quite a few communities. Obviously, my boy strength Kia on Strength Coach Network.
Yeah, that's an awesome.
That's an amazing resource. I'm on Mladen Jovanović's complimentary training. I don't understand half of it, but it's really, really good. I am a member of Pat Davidson's Power Hour. I haven't gone through that for a while, but that's pretty cool. And then in terms of books, I've got my main big books like The Governing Dynamics of Coaching, Strength and Science of Practice of which one's there? What's it called? The Zatsiowski one. All the Bibles I've got, but the main things I've been going back through is more my anatomy and more my biomechanics, and just going back to the basics and going through all that. I've been going back all through my basics, to be honest, during this COVID period, and just doing a little bit of reading here and there, and just trying to build up my bullshit detector.
Right. Yeah. Good stuff. It's a perfect time to go back and revise the more fundamental type stuff, right? So
well, I mean, I was only 4 points short of a major of anatomy, but then I'll go back through anatomy now, and I realised I probably still don't know that much. And even with the I was doing that Altus Foundations course, and they were going into a lot of the biomechanics. So since then, I've been going back through a lot deeper in that, right. And even with the physiology, I've got an honours in exercise phys, but then you go back through there and you realise how much you don't know. So, if you know how the body works, how the body functions, then, the things that people get really excited about, exercise selection, all that makes a lot more sense. And the way you give it, if you have a big, basis and foundation of the hard sciences and the knowledge in that.
Right. Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, awesome. Good stuff. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, mate. Sorry if I got you out of bed too early.
Nah, man. You know what, bro? What I've noticed around this period is I used to wake up at 5 a.m. every single time, and now I'm pressing snooze at 6:15.
Right. We're all getting more.
But you know what? I didn't realize before how chronically. I never thought I was tired before, but I was just living off coffee and that, and you don't realize how much more productive you are when you have a little bit more sleep. So recently, just I've been much more productive and with a little bit of extra sleep. So I think it's going to change the way people operate a little bit as well. So
there you go. We're taking a dose of our own medicine. What we usually tell our athletes, how important sleep is for our performance, and now we're feeling the benefit.
Not only that, being locked up in your house and that before, when you weren't going out as much, you're going outside now and going for a stroll and that, you're like, how good's this? So,
it's nice.
And even doing a little bit of training outside, I've really, really enjoyed. So I've been hitting some pads outside and trying to do some chin-ups, which have been progressive, getting worse, which is definitely the amount of food I've been putting in the gob. So I think pre-COVID I was doing 12, 15 chin-ups, and now I'm struggling to hit 5. So it's time to get serious.
Now you need to read those books while you're on a treadmill. Get a treadmill into your house so you can burn some calories while you're reading instead of your ass.
I'm not about that. I'm not about that running life, bro. All right, mate.
Good stuff.
Thanks for that. Appreciate it.
A lot of good information there, and hopefully everyone can get something out of it.
Thanks, brother. Thank you. See you later.
Have a good one. See ya.